Hey, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. And today we're talking about WeFunder and specifically ways in which you can market your WeFunder campaign or your equity crowdfunding campaign. We're getting into it in just a second. Okay, so again, my name is Salvador, and on this channel we talk a lot about crowdfunding, different types of crowdfunding. For example, we talk about Kickstarter, Indiegogo, which is rewards-based crowdfunding. We talk about e-commerce. We talk about equity crowdfunding, like we're talking about today, real estate crowdfunding, nonprofit fundraising, etc. So I've been in the industry since 2012. I've covered a lot of topics over the years. Specifically today, I want to get into WeFunder, and more specifically, how can you get a river of traffic on your campaign, get a ton of investors getting excited about your mini IPO, or whatever you want to call it, the initial offering, right? Using regulation crowdfunding. And finally, how do you convert that traffic into actual people that are not just investing, but also evangelists for your WeFunder campaign, for your startup, and really making the most of this experience being live with your startup. It's coming up right now. Okay, so first thing I want to say here is that it's very important. A lot of things are changing, right, with regulation crowdfunding. It's always important to double check some of the stuff that I'm saying when it comes to WeFunder itself. Every company has different best practices. I'm going to give you what I think are the best things that you can do in order to prove your chance with your marketing. That being said, there are other regulations when it comes to disclosures and general solicitation, and you should educate yourself and be aware of that. And that goes beyond the scope of this video, but I will be kind of bringing that to the forefront when we talk about different ways to promote. So first of all, let's talk about the way that strangers are going to discover your WeFunder campaign, right? So you go on WeFunder. I urge everyone to go and check out, just start browsing through some of the different projects that are on there. What is the first thing that you see when you start browsing through the marketplace? Well, first of all, you're going to notice a really good looking thumbnail, right? You're going to notice thumbnails, you're going to notice the title maybe of the campaign, and one or two of the highlights from that WeFunder campaign. So you're scrolling through and you notice that you're also going to notice ones that are obviously already successful and they're already doing a type of raise that you're interested in investing in, right? So like regulation crowdfunding already have gotten a certain amount that they've funded, right? Those are the things that are drawing your attention, drawing your eyes, right? So the first tip that I have for you, if you're doing the marketing yourself, or ideally if you're hiring an external marketing expert or an agency or someone like myself to help you with this, this is what you're gonna wanna do. Number one, pay attention to the thumbnail, and here's why. When people are scrolling, you want to have a thumbnail that's kind of like a scroll stopper, I call it, where it's going to capture someone's attention. You do that by using colors, by using graphics, by using something that's going to capture someone's attention in the way of the type of product that you're selling, for example, like drones or whatever your company is about. You want to have something that's a scroll stopper that first gets their attention. Number two, you want to have something that does what I call either pre-selection or pre-framing. What does that mean? Pre-framing is that people at least have the idea that once they see this, they come to the campaign page, they're going to have a sense of what this is about, or they're going to be pre-framed in some way. Good example of this, talk about luxury stores, right? Or a luxury brochure where you're thinking of investing in a condominium in Florida or something like that. You can already tell based on the fonts, the layouts, the colors, the feel, this is going to be maybe more of a luxurious condominium that you're investing in versus more of a different brochure that just doesn't scream luxury, right? So we're pre-framed in order to have a certain expectation before coming to a particular page, whether that's WeFunder, Kickstarter, or other types of sites, right? So you're going to use a thumbnail for that in addition to communicating information. So this might be just a very high level nugget or very high level promise. Someone can have a sense of what they're going to expect to read about or learn about when they come to the actual campaign page. Other quick thing here is the two-level high-level highlights from the campaign are going to show up in the actual thumbnail with when you're browsing on WeFunder. So you have to pay attention to what are those top two highlights, because that's a marketing opportunity, okay? So once you've done that and you've thought a little bit through that, let's get to the actual page. So now you're on the WeFunder page itself, right? I call this building a good mousetrap, or building a butterfly net, or you're using the right fishing pole, if you will. So when it comes to this, there are a few different things that I want to highlight. First of all, the title and the actual thumbnail on the video before play. So when you first come to, let's just say, a Test the Waters campaign, there's going to be a countdown timer on the right, and then you're going to have the actual video there that people can watch, a thumbnail, and also the title. The title is one opportunity. What can you do with the title? Number one, you can load in keywords that are going to attract a certain type of investor. So for example, you could talk about the solution or talk about the problem, or you could talk about the technology that in some way makes you different. So for example, AI-based coding platform or cloud-based enterprise infrastructure or software as a service, right? Or using IoT, Internet of Things, or automatic delivery. Like, you want to think about the keywords that you're going to use to instantly communicate what is important about the offering. And you could say something, for example, like this software does this, or you could say it does deep learning, right? Or it uses intensive AI, or uses a smart database or something like that. You want to work with your marketer or work with yourself and identify some of the ways that you can present the offering in a much more compelling way, but that is still accurate. It's very important to be accurate, but also compelling. So I could say this is software, or I could say it's a software as a service, enterprise grade solution that's going to be super robust for these types of people, right? It's just a different way of saying it. So think a little bit about the title, either who it's for, the technology, how it stands out, or the approach to give them a really quick idea of what the campaign is going to be about. When it comes to the thumbnail, also great opportunity to begin to seed the investment, seed the idea, to get them thinking almost at a more subconscious level about the high-level benefits for that thing. So you could, for example, highlight the market opportunity. This is a $50 billion market opportunity, or target market of this amount, or already working with these types of brands, right? Or you can even just go hardcore to the jugular with the promise, or the big promise that I talk about. So, I've talked about that before in my book, Equity Crowdfunding Explained. Check that out on Audible or on Amazon. I'll include a link down below. I also talk about this in my free course on equity crowdfunding. You can check that out in the link down below. So you're going to want to use that obviously for the thumbnail, the title, and then we can get into a little bit of the high-level highlights and or benefits. Okay, so I am a writer. I love writing. I'm a creative guy. I am a business person, but I would say more integrally, I love creativity and I love making new stuff. I love writing. I love producing videos, making audio content. It's just fun for me. It's like a labor of love. It is an absolute passion for me. I don't have to do YouTube, but this is something that I love doing, and I love teaching specifically. So I'm very aware of how people process information. And usually when people are reading, they're actually not reading. They use the word reading, but they're not actually reading. Most people online are scanning, okay? They're scanning with their eyes, going through the page and deciding what they want to read. And typically something that's going to capture their attention, their actual eyes on the page, they're going to look at that and then they're going to decide, okay, I'm going to read that portion of text, okay? And that's kind of just how human beings operate. Usually people are scanning first, then they're going to stop, scroll stopper, right? Then they're going to read that text and they're going to take away something, a meaning associated with it, or they might be critically processing what it is that they're reading. How does this play in when it comes to WeFunder? The way that it plays in is that you can use those high-level highlights, the first thing they see when they come to the page, to really dig into some of the credibility, to some of the traction that you already have, give people an idea of the future of where you're going, what are the previous excesses the founder had, what are some of the partners already with the brand, how much money is the thing making, either annual revenue or monthly recurring revenue. What are some of the technologies that you're using with your software, if that's a way in which you're standing out, or if you're partnering with a major brand, who is that? What are some of the previous investors potentially? There's a lot that you can include in those different highlights. And when I'm working with a client, I already have a template that I usually use that I've developed over time in order to kind of diagnose that. If you're doing it yourself, you should probably be looking through some other different WeFunder campaigns and just getting a sense of how they do it. A lot of campaigns nowadays are using much more consumer-based, I call it flavorful marketing. For example, using emojis, right? Now, when you think dry businessman, important businessman, right? Or venture capitalist, you don't usually think emojis. But because this is a public-facing campaign, it actually is kind of more in the line of not only you think institutional investors, or you think of hardcore accredited investors that are really serious and dry and just looking through the numbers, like attorneys, accountants, right? But it's also people that are just ordinary individuals. Ordinary people respond to emotions. Ordinary people respond to emojis and things that are going to capture their attention, their eyes, and be shortcuts in their mind. So you can include emojis and also make sure to include just some of the high-level bullet points in the highlight section. Next, let's talk about a little bit more in depth into human psychology and the way in which we process things. So when someone is reading something, I usually love to start writing a page with writing because I think that's the best way to go about it first. So usually what I'm doing is I'm first starting a page with writing and just explaining everything and even just describing the images that I think I might create to convey something, right? So for example, image with a graph showing these things. So I'm just first doing the initial draft of the page in writing and usually doing that in Google Docs. Just really easy, you can collaborate, very simple, right? You don't have to worry about uploading everything, all that kind of stuff, you can get to that later. That being said, once you do that, once you get it written out with all the information that you'd like to cover and the titles and that kind of stuff, you're gonna want to then start to think about how can you visually represent this information on the page. And here's why. Human beings, when you are reading something, you're reading a book that I've written, what you're doing is you are translating those words into images, into senses, and you're getting a sense of what does that mean. So you're downloading that information in your head, you're creating images, you might even have sensations when you're reading like a spy thriller novel and it's a page turner and you can feel your heartbeat going up, or you can feel your eyes darting around the page because you want to find out what's going to happen next and you get really curious, right? Writing is designed to produce emotions, or good writing, which we call copywriting, what marketers do, right? So you're doing work, you're translating the writing on the page into mental images and what it means in your head. Images are amazing because they kind of shortcut that process, right? So when you see an image, you're looking at the image and the image is what it is, right? So if you see an image of a tree, you know it's a tree. If I say the word tree, you have to conjure up an image of a tree, and different people might see different images of different trees and different types of trees depending on where you are in the world and your cultural background, right? So it's a very different process. So what you want to do is you want to get all of the writing first and then begin to create the images from that to illustrate the different things that you're trying to convey. Now that can be working, I'll talk about with slides, you can use that and lean on that, but there should also be some kind of a theme. So I'm talking about like the headlines, for example, the colors, the fonts, the way the thing feels. It should feel kind of uniform, right? And people's eyes, like I mentioned, are going to be going down the page. They're going to be gravitating to the images, the graphics, and the things that are going to quickly communicate what it is that you're doing. And once they see that image, they are then going to go a layer deeper and they're going to read the text underneath that image. Very important. It's almost like a caption if you want to think of it that way. They're going to be reading the text afterwards and making more logical sense of what it is basically that you're talking about. Going hand in hand with the images would be the slides, right? So most companies out there, if you're going to be doing a WeFunder or regulation crowdfunding campaign, you should have slides. And those slides are typically on the problem, solution, market opportunity, market size, defensive moat around the business, the people that are working a part of the company that have that really hardcore institutional knowledge or are like directors of the company or whatever, that are really the ones going to be pulling off the vision, the execution stage. And you can also talk about like financial projections, all that kind of stuff. You should have slides. If you don't have slides, you need to get slides, right? It's like the modern day business plan is slides if you're working with investors, right? So you want to make sure that you have slides. The other thing that would be, you can allow people to download those slides on the actual WeFunder campaign. So people can look through your slides as well. But also, if you want to cut down on the image creation, you could also embed some of those slides within the WeFunder campaign page. Really simple hack, really simple way if you want to put together a nicer page. Okay, so let's talk about some of the techniques that you can use to emotionally warm up investors before they come to the actual page. Now, I know we don't talk a lot about emotion and investing, but they're actually tied hand in hand. Anytime you're dealing with a human being, emotions are the main reason that they're first making a decision. However, they're gonna logically think it over, right? And they're gonna assess it. Is it a good decision for me to make? But we still are emotional creatures. So when it comes to WeFunder, what you're going to want to do is assess. Get out like I love yellow legal pads. Get out a yellow sheet of paper, and just start writing down what are the ways that I could include social proof on my campaign page. Now, what is social proof? Social proof is basically like credibility. Think of it as credibility, right? So if I say my book is a bestseller, or hundreds of people have bought my book and left reviews, or all these kinds of things, like, or I have thousands of YouTube followers, right? Like that's social proof. That's you saying that other people view whatever it is you're doing as being noteworthy. Okay, a best-selling book, by its virtue, if you pick up a best-selling book, you're more likely to read a few pages of that book or look at the book jacket to find out what it's really about, because other people have already said it's good, right? Same thing goes with a best-selling or a best-watched movie, let's just say. A movie that all your friends are recommending or has gotten lots of accolades and this kind of stuff, and is on the top 10 lists of best movies to watch. You know if you watch that movie, it's probably going to be a good movie, right? It doesn't require a lot of thought and judgment to make that decision. So the same thing goes with WeFunder, which is the more social proof you have, the more people are going to be likely to give you their attention and to watch your video. In addition, consider investing in your campaign. What are some of the forms of social proof? Well, number one, the fact that you have funding right out of the gate. You have friends and family, you have your lead investor, you have other people that have put in money. That already is social proof. Other people are going to be willing to watch the video just because they know this thing is legit, and other people taking the time to check it out. Another form of social proof would be things like accolades, right? So if you've had a previous exit as a founder, if you've accomplished something big, if there's something related to the technology, if there are really big brands that you're currently working with as a company. Other social proof would be current or existing customers, right? Or the pace at which your growth is going. All of these things will signify to someone who's never met you before, wow, this is something that's happening. I guess I'm out of the loop, right? I guess I'm crazy. When people see, for example, the price of Bitcoin skyrocketing, they then start to question themselves like, oh, maybe I should be in on this, right? And they start to spend more attention, more time learning about Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. Same thing goes with investments. If you see a stock that's skyrocketing like Tesla, then a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, should I have been in Tesla? Like, is this happening? I'm just not aware of it, right? They're gonna take the time to learn about it. So the more social proof that you can infuse your campaign with, the more likely people who come to it are gonna become curious rather than skeptical when they come to your WeFunder page. And also, it opens up what's called the critical faculty. It opens up their analysis, and they're willing to learn a little bit more about your campaign. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillment is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillment today. Link in the description. Let's talk about some tangible ways, right? Aside from what I mentioned, ways to include social proof. So we went over the highlights, for example, the thumbnails, the campaign page, the use of graphics, and also communicating information that you might be a badass founder who's had a lot of success in his life, but unless you communicate it, unless you show it, people don't know, right? Only your close network knows. That's one of the benefits of working with a coach like myself or a marketer like myself, is you kind of get outside of your own insular thinking, and you can see how other people who you've never met before will judge the page, right? But that being said, what's another simple way you can get social proof? Well, you can get people to vouch for you. Now, information and functionality is always changing on WeFunder and other tech platforms. You should always double check what I'm saying. But that being said, right now, you can use what's called a vouching feature on WeFunder, where you can invite friends, family, close colleagues to vouch for you before you go live with your WeFunder campaign. And this would be during the test the waters period of your WeFunder or your equity crowdfunding campaign. What do you do there? You just send the voucher link where they can vouch for you, or what's called recommend you, right? People then who have worked with you before can vouch for you. That's going to then appear on your WeFunder page when you go live. In addition, WeFunder is going to prompt to those people to invest in your campaign when you go live as well. So it's actually a two-pronged mechanism to instantly get social proof when you go live with your campaign. It's such low-hanging fruit. Everyone should be using this, right? The other thing is that there are built-in disclosures when you're using WeFunder's functionality. So you don't have to include the same disclosures you would in normal communications. In addition, based on the current SEC regulations, when you file your Form C, you do have to have screenshots of your marketing if you're doing communications off of the platform in the test the waters phase. So makes sense. Why not just use the voucher feature, right? And if you don't want it, if you want to, for example, warm people up, I think that's a great idea. You could say, hey, I'm going to be asking you for a recommendation on this WeFunder thing I'm doing. You don't have to invest. You might have to create a profile on WeFunder. They're not going to, make you invest or anything like that. But it would mean so much to me if you could just vouch for me and my character, and that way other people know that I'm a legit person, or that this is a professional company. This thing is real. And then when you go live, you're going to get all of these people vouching for you, and you can already see that on different WeFunder campaigns that are out there. Okay, man, I want to keep plowing ahead. I want to keep going here. I know we're talking about a lot of stuff. So first of all, if you have liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, come subscribe, turn on notifications. Go and check out WeFunder down below if you haven't yet. I'll include a link, and also some of the stuff like my audio book, my free courses, like all that kind of stuff would be really appreciated. You can also check out my website, crowdcrux.com. If you want to get in contact with me, there's a contact me button, I believe, there. I do get a lot of emails, so if I do not reply, don't take it personally. Same thing with the comments. I'm working on getting better systems in order to deal with these things. But that being said, let's get into the next thing that I want to cover here, which is how can you create a marketing funnel, okay? The way that we get people to take action, you could just do what I call like a sniper shot approach, where you're just like, go and take action, go and do this thing. That's a CTA, what we call it as marketers, right? A CTA. You could just have one CTA. And that can work sometimes. You can sometimes just have a sniper rifle approach and like maybe you only have 50 investors or 40 investors and they're putting in a lot of money. That can work, particularly if there's a higher net worth individuals and there are very strong relationships that you've built with these people who are already putting in money, right? However, if you're dealing with strangers, usually people are not going to buy or invest the first time that they see some kind of a message or a communication from you. It takes time. It takes time to warm that individual up. So what we do is we create a marketing funnel and also have segmentation. So for example, you're going to segment the warm leads, the people who you already know, friends, family, etc., previous investors, and the cold leads, people who you've never met before, but who you want to get interested in investing in your WeFunder campaign. And that's the first thing. The other thing is to begin to have this funnel, right? So on the top part of the funnel, we have things which I'm going to get over, which is like, social media, etc. So I'm going to cover that a little bit later. But in the middle part, in the bottom parts of the funnel, one of the lowest hanging ways you can market your campaign is to allow people to schedule a phone call with you as the founder. So you can use, for example, a software tool like Calendly, which has built-in functionality with WeFunder to allow people to call you and you can ask, or they can ask you questions, or you can address any objections that they might have. I'm getting super excited right now because this is like the one thing that is holding people back. If you can get people and you can address their objections head on right there, you hit the nail on the head, right? Then there's nothing holding them back from investing in your campaign. That's how sales works. You got to address objections, right, to get the commitment or to get the sale. So having people be able to schedule a call with you is a really easy, low-hanging fruit marketing way in order to transition people down the funnel and then become a maybe larger investor with you. So maybe you're not doing it for the small ones, but let's just say someone's putting in 10K or more into your company, you could offer that option to schedule a phone call with you. Now, when you're doing that, you do want to make sure to stay clear with all the proper disclosures. You don't want to be, for example, including information in that call or telling them about things that you don't have on the WeFunder campaign. Like you want to make sure you're directing their attention to the WeFunder campaign, and you can review the regulations there. And I'm not a lawyer or an accountant, so you got to do that on your own time. This is my disclosure. It's like, don't follow this advice without first addressing one of those people. That being said, other thing you could do would be, aside from just doing a one-off call, why not use the incredible technology we now have access to and do a webinar, do a group call where you can bang out a bunch of these in one setting. Think about it. We already do this in the offline world with accelerators, with pitch competitions, with Shark Tank, etc. Why not do it on the online world as well? Now you got to be, obviously, like I said, you got to be clear with what you're sharing, but talking about you as a founder, your mission, what you're trying to do, the story, the vision, all that kind of stuff can really get people excited. They can get to know you and your accolades. And then you can be like, hey guys, go and check out the WeFunder. Here's the link. Let me know if you have any questions. This is when we're doing the test the waters period until. This is when we're doing this period until. This is when the campaign's open. This is what we're searching for, right? You can then direct them for the hardcore information with that actual WeFunder campaign. Okay, I wanna go through two more things on this video. Thank you so much if you made it this far. I'm trying to get through a lot of stuff for you guys. And it's just because I don't think a lot of people are putting out good stuff, honestly, on this. And I did actually a really good podcast recently with a lead marketer at WeFunder, the director of fundraising at WeFunder, I believe is the right title. I might be off with that, but he's basically a lead marketer at WeFunder. You can go and listen to that. I'll try and include a link to that in the description. But we went through like a really long, I think it was like a 45-minute podcast, just talking about the new stuff WeFunder is doing and the ways in which they're trying to help people, founders like you, on the actual platform. So how does the ranking algorithm work, and like what are they going to do in terms of helping promote you? So you should listen to that podcast if you want to learn more about that. That being said, so let's get into the next channel, which is the top of the funnel. I know I'm kind of going backwards here, but the top of the funnel is really where you're generating awareness and generating traffic. This is the top of the marketing funnel. And the reason why I want to talk about this is that I think that we're using social media, we're using a lot of these tools incorrectly when it comes to marketing. So the top of the funnel is all about awareness. Think awareness, okay? You want people to be aware that you are doing one of these fundraising campaigns and that there is a duration and what's happening. Where can they go for more information? You want to get their interest. You want to get their awareness, right? You want them to be aware. So that being said, one of the easiest ways to do this is via social media, right? So you can use the different social media channels that are out there, for example, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all these other ones, right? You can use Twitter if you want to, and you can begin to talk about the actual raise. Now, this is like the general solicitation period, obviously, and you have to be aware of like doing tombstone style communications. However, this should be used to almost stroke the fire, get people curious, get them interested, get them anticipating something, make them say like, where can I learn more? Make them feel like they're missing out on something almost. And I wouldn't say exactly, but like almost. So you want to kind of like that emotion of curiosity. After someone watches a video you're putting out there on Facebook or a communication on LinkedIn or a blog post or something like that, they should start to feel curious and be like, this actually sounds kind of interesting. Where could I learn more information? That's really the whole job of the top of the funnel. Move people down to the next order in the funnel. Now, let's just say once you get them on the WeFunder page, there are now different things you can do, for example, with your Facebook retargeting or Facebook marketing when it comes to people who have been on the page versus have viewed the invest page, right? So there are different ways in which you can trigger the Facebook pixel to be able to segment your audiences. So once someone has actually converted in terms of getting to the page, then they are a different step in the funnel, right? So now you have their interest, you have a bit of their attention, now you have to sustain it until you get the investment. So then you're moving people down the funnel even more. So you might be sharing other information that's going to help them to have more assurance or help them feel more confident or make them aware of the deadlines that are there to prompt urgency. All these different things you include in the middle and the lower parts of the funnel. And what ends up happening is you then have an established conversion window. So it kind of looks like layers of like sediment rock, or I'm trying to think of another analogy. You almost have a gradient, right? So some people are going to invest the first time they see it, like right there. Other people are going to take time. It might be a 7-day conversion window where they need to see a few different of your communications before they decide to invest. Other people might be a month. Other people might be 2 months, right? And you can obviously run a longer campaign using WeFunder and using regulation crowdfunding. So what you want to be doing as a marketer or as an individual who's in head of this is to be aware of the conversion window, right? And to pay attention to that and to keep your fingers on the pulse when it comes to the conversion window, because that really informs all of your marketing going forward. And not every campaign is the same. So like if you have one campaign that's getting like a lot of conversions in the first 3 days of an exposure versus another campaign that's doing takes maybe 2 weeks to get an investment commitment, that's going to be a different style of marketing. That's going to impact the costs that go into the actual marketing and the outreach when it comes to cold audiences. Same thing goes with the warm audiences, right? So with the warm audiences, friends, family, professional connections, etc., previous investors, if it's taking them time to be able to understand what you're doing, to be able to create an account on WeFunder, to be able to make an investment, right? And then maybe need to be reminded a couple of times, there's going to be a conversion window as well with that group of people. So what you want to be doing is being aware of this and trying to plot this out. What is the marketing funnel? What are the conversion windows that you're expecting? How does that sync up with reality? What information do people need to be exposed to in order to make that purchasing decision? What emotions do they need to feel before making that purchasing decision? Where are they on the gradient scale and these different audiences that you're going after? Okay guys, final one, final tip. Final tip when it comes to marketing. So this is, to me, it's been a difficulty, I think, my entire life. And the reason is that whenever I would get good at something, for example, like I played tennis in high school and I was in junior varsity and I was pretty good, but I would also go through cycles, right? I'd be good some weeks and bad the other weeks, or like I'd go through a really good spurt of winning a lot of matches and then I'd be like kind of down. Same thing would go, like I was a fencer. I did fencing for 10 years, right? I did foil fencing, did fencing around all Massachusetts, and like flew to different places to do fencing. I also have played other sports, obviously like baseball, one of my favorite sports, basketball, etc. I love going to batting cage. I've done soccer, etc. And what you notice when you're performing is that you will have these spells that you go through where it's like, I'm doing really well and then maybe not so well. Or when I was doing ballroom dancing in college, like I had some good meets and I had some ones that weren't so great, right? So it's like, you go through these cycles. And one of my coaches once said to me, like, Sal, you're doing amazing, but the problem is that you're too much in your head sometimes. Sometimes like I'm almost admiring my own game. And whenever I get into that mindset of like admiring too much and just not focusing on the next move, all of a sudden I'm taken out of the moment, right? And then I'm like I'm too much in my head. I'm not really in the moment. I'm not reacting quickly enough. And it just doesn't go very well. A better approach is, even if you have a really good shot with tennis, right? Or you have a really good match when you're fencing, to just not think about it and just keep going, right? And that's really how you plow through. So I've noticed this also with digital marketing, which is when you have like a really good campaign and it's going really well, it is so easy to just relax and be like, yeah, I did it. This is awesome. This creative is working really well. This audience target is on point. Just like lay back and be like, that's amazing, right? And there's a certain part where like you should be congratulating yourself. But the second after you congratulate yourself, like after that day, you should be back on the grindstone and being like, okay, how do we freshen up the creatives, right? And that's really what I want to talk about in my last point. How do we freshen up the content? How do we freshen up the creatives? How do we make sure this isn't just a one-hit wonder? Because you can have a really good communication campaign, but if people are seeing the same creative, the same wording, the same verbiage, the same everything, after 3 months, they're gonna tune out. You're not gonna maintain their attention. So if you want to keep the thing fresh, you always got to be doing new updates. You always got to be incorporating new creatives into your content, new angles, new announcements, all that kind of stuff. You got to be generating content, generating news, right? Generating new ways of saying this, or trying to say the same thing in new ways, or using similar creatives but different color scheme maybe, or similar content but just a little bit of different headlines, different stuff right there, or a new mini announcement. When you do that, what it allows you to do is to kind of continue to ride that trend. So like, for example, if you had a really good marketing campaign and it went well, but then you don't change up the creatives for like months, it's gonna get really stale. And even just in terms of your existing audience, it might even be shorter than that. It might be a week, right? Depending on how you're doing your marketing. So you wanna have a strategy to, even if you get it really good and well synced up, and maybe you're not at your fundraising ideal amount that you want to get to and you're still going with it, you want to think about ways to change up and revitalize the content, the emails, the social media postings, the updates, that kind of stuff. Because what that's going to do is allow you to sustain attention, and someone who maybe saw the initial communication but for whatever reason didn't hop on the bandwagon then might hop on the bandwagon on month 1.5 of the campaign. So by changing up creatives, keeping it fresh, new content, new announcements, new stuff that's going on, you're always gonna be maintaining attention. And it's similar to the news. You ever watch the news? They're always coming out with new stuff. Is it really new? Like a lot of the same stories, same types of stories, right? But it seems like it's news. So it's always commanding attention, always commanding attention, always commanding attention. And that's, to me, one of the lessons that I've had to learn a lot harder, is that once you get it right, it's not enough. You can celebrate a little bit, maybe take a day or two and feel really proud of yourself, but then you gotta hit the grindstone again. You gotta go back and you gotta start planning for the future. And that's my final tip to you. So if you like this video, first of all, thank you so much for watching it. My name is Salvador Briggman. Hope you enjoyed it. Go check out some of my links down below. Check out my website, crowdcrux.com. Come subscribe, leave a comment down below, give me a thumbs up, all that kind of jazz. But thank you so much for listening. Hope it was helpful for you. Hope it was useful and worth your time. And I will see you next time.